knew I shouldn't have done it.
I think I was very clear before we came on stage. Only don't stare in my eyes. And don't touch me.
This is trouble. He's not working for me now. I can't do anything.
It was about leading versus guiding and really not giving much direction. Do you need me to direct you?
Can I?
Yes, sir.
When I do a movie, I'm the boss. I'm the boss. When you're in business, you're the boss. But I never see myself as a leader. What I do is I'm just kind of who I am, and I hope people will work with me, and the ones that don't, I have to fire. And that sounds rough. I've only fired 2 people, and it was not pleasant, but I did it in the most humane way possible. But when I'm dealing with actors, what you don't do is on the outside in. You don't say, hey, you know what? Hey, Gary, that smile you did, can you do that again? It'll never happen. Hey, this time, could you walk over here and then turn? You're gonna be a robot if you do that. What you do is you try to get in the heart and in the intent. And if you want to walk over there, you don't say walk over there. You say, hey, do you think maybe you want to go over there and take a look at that window? Would your character feel like you're doing that? And if he does, then he's going there for a reason. He's going to look through the window and see if this car's there. You got to get behind it. And even in life, in my opinion, people don't take time to be told what to do. I sure as hell don't. I don't want to be told what to do. And so it's important when I work with actors, certainly, or even my crew members, that I see them as co-workers. I'm the boss. I've got to make the decisions, but still, they contribute, and I've got to make sure that the production is wonderful. I'm a very selfish director. I want the production great, and they can all help me, as long as I don't tell them what to do. Because if I tell them, what am I hiring for? I mean, if I tell everybody here I want this, how are they going to contribute? It makes no sense.
You know, you touched a minute ago on your work and years of work. How many folks know all of the creations that Mr. Oz was responsible for, and just alone the world of the Muppets? Could you name just some of the
Muppets? It's Grover, Bert, Cookie Monster, and the classic Muppets, Miss Piggy, Animal, Fozzie, and a whole bunch of others.
Can you tell me a little inside the Fozzie?
Let's say something. I'm up here and I get the credit. One never works in a vacuum. There are the workshop people who made those characters. The writers who wrote those characters. There's Jim who worked to create those characters for me. One never works in a vacuum, so I get the credit up here. But there should be a lot of people sitting in this chair with me.
You know, you did another small project that I'm not sure if anybody has ever heard of a little movie called Star Wars. And hands down, you brought to life and helped create, and again, I know you'll share that with many people, but probably one of the most known characters of all of them is a very small being named Yoda. And can you talk about working?
I'm sorry.
You're going to interrupt me?
No, I'm sorry. God, is he does this to you? We know each other way too well. Okay.
Could you talk about, you know, you've worked with 2 of legendary people, and your work with George Lucas. And some of the things that you took away from that experience and some of the things that helped you grow, do that work.
Well, George and Jim were very similar. They're very quiet, very smart, and hard workers. You know, maybe you get the idea in showbiz of screaming and all that stuff. That's horsepower. That, you know, you don't work with people like that. You work with people who are generous and intent and collaborative as long as you have that vision. And George has a tremendous vision. And Jim had a tremendous vision. But they were the kind of people that Jim never once told us what to do. When he taught us, he never taught us. All he did was he lived it, and we would observe. When we performed, he would never say, do this, ever. So that kind of human being you want to follow. And George also never tells you what to do. He's very quiet, very smart. I don't like screamers. I'm not pleased with them for many, many reasons. But George and Jim are two human beings that followed their passion. But it's interesting, they followed their passion even though they didn't know how to complete their passion, which is important. Because in my opinion, when there's a job to be done and you have a vision, you have the vision, like I have a vision in the movie, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. So you trust people along the way, and you trust. So I would say that the process is the answer. Because how can you answer, you know, this is one thing against me about politicians, sorry, and campaigns, and promising to do this and promising to do that. Well, first of all, how do they know they can do it? In what manner can they do it? What's the process? They don't know. They may have a vision, but they don't know until they get the people to work with and get these ideas. So, to me, the process is always the answer. In any case, with George and Jim, that was the case too. The process was the answer. They took a chance, they leapt, and then they had the faith that they and others with them would make things happen.
So let's shift a little bit from being the director and being the boss. And then maybe go back to the moment when you get the phone call and they talk to you about this character named Yoda in this film that they want to do. Where do you go? Are you racked with self-doubt? Do you go through the same processes? How do you deal when you know you have to take it to another level and you have to, especially probably in the second film and in subsequent films, how do you always come back to that to raise the bar? And where do you find the through line to bring these characters to life? And knowing you have a boss in that scenario, where do you go to accomplish?
With George, it's funny. The first time I did Empire Strikes Back, I was in London shooting. We were shot in London. And he was at the canteen. I hadn't really known George very well. You know, we talked a little bit. But I remember I was thinking, you know, he hasn't given me interaction, just like Jim. And I went over to George and said, George, excuse me, but, you know, how do you want Yoda to be? You know, do you have any feelings about him, his backstory, his character? How do you feel? And he said, Frank, just make it wonderful. And what he's doing is saying, you know what you're doing, okay? I trust you. I'm going to work with you. And that was wonderful. As far as when I first saw Yoda, I was doing the Muppet movie in Los Angeles, and I remember George, through Gary Kurtz, the co-producer, had asked Jim if he wanted to do it, and Jim was running a company, and he didn't quite have the same acting background that I did, and so he suggested me, and Jim always supported me and gave me opportunities because of him I'm here. And so Gary came with a book of renderings, drawings, and he put them down, and he said, "This is what." And so he gave me a book with different drawings of Yoda, not the one you see now, but different drawings. And there was one drawing, and I don't know why. Some characters, like Bert, took a year to get it right. Somehow with Yoda, it clicked. I don't know why it did, but it's got a clicking in your microphone. No, it got a click in your heart. And somehow in my heart it clicked. The contradiction of this small little man with this extraordinary wisdom and power, and yet being a little petty. it was wonderful. So once I did that, the progression of getting into Yoda, I worked with Stuart Freeborn, who made the character, and Jim worked too. But you probably think everything went great. You see the results, right? First day of shooting, I said, "Can I please shoot over again?" And George let me. It was terrible. And what you see is, you see me as a success up here. You don't see all the mistakes I made and all the stupid things I've done. And with Yoda, actually for the first day, one eye didn't work. And things were not right and ready. And so, nothing's perfect. With Yoda, just so you know how Yodas are done? Anybody? Now, the CG right now, right? CGI? Okay. But the character, I do the character live. I work with, with Mark, and I work with Sam and all these people. But he was live. He was this big. Yoda's this big. Okay? So how's he done? Any thoughts? Yeah, okay. But he's a puppet, but how's he done? I mean, his eyes move. I'm just one guy. Huh?
Puppeteers.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Puppeteers?
Puppeteers, but that doesn't answer the question. How physically? No, not robotics. I won't tease you, but it took 4 people to do Yoda. This has to do with teamwork, actually, on the way to business, I think. I'm not telling you can cherry pick that, but I realize it does. I worked the head and the mouth, and I had the left hand. Somebody else did the right hand. In the early days it was cable, but as time went on there was remote control. But in the early days it was a cable to another guy over here watching a monitor, and he did the eyes and the eyelids. There's another cable over here to a guy, and he was watching a monitor, and he did the brow and the ears. Okay? The thing is, how do you get that all together to an organic performance that transforms what this is? Because this is just a puppet, but you believe in it. So my job is to transform it, not to make it good, not to make it great, to transform it. That's what I'm going to do to make sure you don't see it's just a puppet. So you say, okay, here, try this. This is what it's hard. Okay, it's very simple. Just look at your knee, touch it, come back and do this. Just do that. Go ahead, just do it. Just look at your knee, touch it, and then okay, now. What happened? Did you move your hand first? Or did your eyes go to it first? Or did your head move first? Did your eye blink? When you went to this, when you released it, did your eyes stay there? Did your head come first? That's what we had to do with Yoda. With 4 people. Because it's like, here, clap hands. No, your hand. One hand. So you get it. It's very difficult. But when you have like 6 things at once, what you do is you rehearse and rehearse over and over and over and over and over and over constantly. And what happens if your mind and heart are in the right place? What happens when you do that? The rhythm takes over. Your body takes over. It's rhythm. And then everything falls into place. Then you're in a groove, But it takes so much your collaboration. I mean, I couldn't do this alone.